Coming to you from Dynatrace Perform in Las Vegas, it's pure performance.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey, Mark. We're back here at Dynatrace, and we have Carmen
Puccio.
Carmen Puccio from AWS.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
This is great. How's your Dynatrace experience so far?
It's been good. I've been hanging out in the conference center here, and I'm doing booth duty today. And one of my colleagues, he actually just gave a session. So he said it was super interesting. He had a lot of folks in there. So a little upset I couldn't speak this week, but here I am. I'm talking to you guys. So
yeah,
you're speaking.
Yeah.
That's very
and
cool.
when did you get in here? Did you get in here yesterday, or?
I flew in Sunday, actually. I was in Seattle, so I'm based out of New York, and I was in Seattle all last week doing a little AWS internal planning for this year, and I managed to squeeze a little snowboarding over the weekend out in Washington State, and here I am. So
that sounds cool.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
So what do you got going on with, just before we started this, you said you had a couple of projects you were working on with Dynatrace and AWS?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to set a little context, I've been with AWS for almost 3 years now.
Okay.
Dynatrace has been one of my partners since day one. I started out as a partner solutions architect with AWS, and I curated and worked with our mass migration partners. So I did the migration competency inside AWS, which Dynatrace is actually a member of.
Cool.
I've met the team over the years, so whether it be Franz or Andreas or Andy, like great guys to work with, and we've kind of inserted Dynatrace through various aspects of like a migration journey, right? So like how you can use them as part of your strategic planning as you build your portfolio. What do I have? When do I move it? And then at the same time, the inverse side of that, how do I use Dynatrace to kind of break down my application once I moved it, make sure it's performing well, or maybe I want to optimize it, right? So like there was all kinds of opportunities over the better part of 2.5 years to work with Dynatrace in that migration scenario, right? And it's been cool. In the last year and a half, give or take, I've done two things recently with Dynatrace. We've built a quick start. So for customers that want to manage Dynatrace themselves as opposed to your SaaS offering, they want to deploy it into an AWS environment, we have something called the AWS Quick Start program, which is essentially a templatized version of a production-ready application. A lot of our ISV partners have taken advantage of it because customers ask them, how can I have a prescriptive, production-ready, infrastructure as code, way to drop your software into my AWS account. And Dynatrace, myself and Chris out of Austria, we built a quick start over about a year, and it's been popular from what I understand. So we did that, and then Andy and I were doing the Break the Monolith story, which I'm sure you guys have seen.
So part of the self-service, there's the unbreakable pipeline piece.
That was one.
So Break the Monolith is where you can take your monolithic application, and you could create virtual microservices by creating custom services and see how it's going to flow, so that you know whether or not is this going to be a good idea to create a microservice out of this, or break this apart and all, and you really get to model it.
And then I think Sonia, they had a hot day session that was using, I think the self-service or the unbreakable pipeline had the Lambda integration, I think Andy was working on.
Cool. So Andy did an unbreakable pipeline, a CI/CD pipeline, with the AWS, what's the pipeline called?
Code pipeline.
Yeah. Code pipeline, there you go.
It's and a code pipeline? I don't know if you know if it's called.
Yeah, what's their code pipeline called? But he would then take data from Dynatrace, feed it into a Lambda function, and then do self-healing. So a lot of really cool integrations going on in there.
Yeah.
So how do people get into, you're talking about the migration before, how do people get into this whole migration piece of it?
So I mean, a lot of times too, like if you think about it, a lot of customers want to move their applications over, but at the same time, maybe they have a relationship with Dynatrace already, right? So you guys have your SaaS offering, and a lot of times customers want to run it themselves, right? They're on top of EC2 or whatever it may be, and that might be part of their migration. They might want to actually pick up their Dynatrace implementation and figure out how to run it on AWS themselves. It was about a year-ish ago, I met with the Dynatrace team at our SKO, and we came up with the concept of building a quick start, right? So the AWS Quick Start program is essentially a way for you to deploy production-ready applications on top of AWS. So think about like, you're an ISV partner, and people ask you all the time, how do I get started? How do I drop this in? And at the same time, I don't want to build this by hand. I just want to run a CloudFormation script or whatever it may be. AWS works with the partner to build out this production-ready implementation. So I worked with Chris from the Dynatrace team, and we built a quick start, and it was launched, I want to say say it was launched, I think, somewhere back in September. It was shortly before our reInvent. But yeah, it was a great journey, and I'm glad there's some traction on it for you guys.
Yeah, that's excellent. And in terms of moving people over and helping customers just from the AWS side, bring their infrastructure over, you'll have an organization. And I happen to know this because a few weeks ago we had an interview with Mandus Momberg.
My colleague, wonderful guy, good skier. He skied with me last weekend.
Is he a snowboarder or a skier?
No, I'm the snowboarder, he's the skier.
See, there you go.
He was very impressive. First time, so.
His first time
For me to go with him. Yeah, he took me up to Washington to a place called Crystal Mountain. Really nice.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So he was talking about the 6 Rs, and I think he made up a 7 R. But I hadn't heard about the 7 Rs before that. The funny thing is, I was talking to another customer who went through that program, Samba Safety, and they went through that whole program and moved everything. And the guy, we were talking about all these different pieces of it, and we're like, oh, that's really interesting. And then next week we interview Mandus, and he's talking about these 6 Rs. I'm like, wait, this is, if I would have known, I could have put this in much better context.
He's getting all the credit here because I'm going to say he coined it, right? So the 6 Rs is something that we publicize. It's in all of our public-facing material. We're approaching a new R internally, really. This is something that, we're starting to breach out, and we're starting to teach our consulting partners. And essentially, it's like, how do I pick my application up and move it into a container as part of my migrations? To say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
But like, if you think about it, like, we pick these applications up, they're lift and shift. We have the server migration service. We have great tools like Cloud and Door, which do this lift and shift model. But at the same time, too, is that always necessary, right? The nature of a container, the ability to build it fast and fail fast, learn from your mistakes, it could be used as part of your migration strategy. Simple web server, maybe just serving Nginx or IIS or whatever it may be. Maybe you don't want to go down that traditional EC2 route. Maybe you want to put that inside of a container as part of your move. Smaller footprint, easier to iterate on. And again, you fail, oh well, tear it down, start all over again, check it in, and next thing you know, you have a new version of it running. So we're approaching that as our 7th R. It's not official, but it's something that we're starting to explore. We're starting to work with our consulting partners with. And at the same time, too, we've chatted with Dynatrace quite a bit here. How can Dynatrace help show those metrics about, all right, I had the application before, I've stuck it into a container, I've deployed it, now I want to do a comparison model, I want a before and after, right? Because again, just because it's in a container doesn't mean that you still don't, you still have to monitor it, you still have to measure it, because you want it to be optimized and running at least on par, if not better than what it was on-prem. So,
right, excellent.
Yeah.
Did you get to see any of the keynote this morning? Or
no.
I've
been in the booth all morning. So anything interesting come out of it?
Yeah, there were two of the bigger announcements. One was around a developer edition, right? So we have a Developer for Life edition where they're going to have, I guess it's going to be hosted by us. They're going to have access to, I don't know how it's stripped down. It might just be one agent. I don't know what the restriction will be.
Very interesting.
But there's an entire community built around it with videos help. They're going to try to get all the developers to be communicating with each other and sharing techniques. So besides learning how to maybe monitor and look at performance, I think it's also a playground or a sandbox for them to try some of these other integrations.
That's a really big one too. I think we call that the shift left mentality, right? Where we're putting a little bit more responsibilities about how to operationalize an application in the developer's hand. Containers and serverless really push that envelope, and the fact that you guys are going with that strategy and and put an offering out, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's going to be free too, which is crazy.
That's even better.
So they'll get to learn the ropes. They'll get to figure everything out that they need to. So once they go to really implement, they have it all worked out, and they can build it right into their code and check it in. Then, right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece was the Open API. So sorry, the Open AI.
AI, not API.
I don't want to be like Brandy.
But it's the AI Ops.
Yes, AI
and
Ops.
the other 3-letter acronym is the Autonomous Cloud Management.
Right, Autonomous Cloud Management.
ACM.
But the big piece of this now is that the AI, we've always been able to ingest data via API into Dynatrace. Now the AI is going to look at that data as well as part of the causation engine. So if you have a load balancer or any other appliance that's feeding data into it, that's going to now be, that we can't put an agent on, right? That's going to now be considered as whether or not that's a root cause.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
how does AI work that way, like internally to AWS? Like you guys would be able to share that data, or?
So that's something I'm not necessarily well versed on, so I can't go super deep there. But yeah, I mean, there's opportunities to talk with other SAs that specialize in the AI space. We have a whole wing of SAs that work with partners such as Dynatrace, and you probably already have one that I've just never met. So,
and I imagine we're going to be able to now, because also in the past we had the CloudWatch metrics.
Yep.
So I'm imagining now we're going to be able to do more with those metrics than just display them. Actually, get results based on that, which is really exciting.
The root cause analysis. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think the natural integration point is really at machine data, at logs, and certainly AWS makes it really easy to send that machine data to an aggregator someplace else, and that aggregator can certainly be Dynatrace and the AI engine.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about the context of centralized log management as part of our migration strategy. So I think, one of the common questions we get is like, how do I start? I'm new to the cloud. I don't know necessarily where to begin. So besides the part that I talked about, like, get an understanding of what the application's doing. That's a very key piece of your migration strategy. But at the same time, too, you have to think about the operational constructs that it takes to actually operate at scale. So a lot of times I tell customers to think about things like centralized log management. Think about things, how am I going to do a multi-account structure inside of AWS? We recently just did the control tower release or a preview announcement where essentially it's allowing customers to have almost like a vending machine style account creation for them. So, it's not necessarily try and crunch everything into a singular account. You want to break things out where you have a shared services account. Maybe you have an account specifically for security, an application account, so on and so forth. But the key theme there is you want to think about log aggregation and how do I actually take all of those logs, put them to a centralized place so your operations teams and hopefully your developers can go in and check out and see what's going on at any given time, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the key questions I will have is, especially with the developer edition, I do always want to ask, like, you find these developer free edition for life announcement, but also how do people get started?
Yeah.
Like, what do you recommend to people who have or are still just learning about the cloud?
Yeah.
I mean, do they just start at running?
Yeah,
or
the credit card scenario, right?
Yeah.
The developer spins up off his credit card. Next thing you know, it's the production app.
Yeah.
No, I mean along the similar theme that I was just talking about, all those operational constructs. But the one thing that I always talk about, and we have a whole program around this. We have what's called a migration acceleration program at AWS, where either AWS professional services or our consulting partners will go in and work with a customer to help them migrate workloads and teach them how to do it.
Yeah.
And almost always an ISV partner such as yourselves or one of maybe of our other migration competency partners are in there helping, do a certain function. Maybe it's the monitoring and logging piece, whatever it may be.
Right.
But the thing that we always tell them is don't try and move your biggest workload first, right? We make a lot of tools that make it very easy for you to do things like, again, pick up that application and move it. Maybe it's in the context of our server migration service or a database migration service or whatever it may be. But think about more, how do I operate, right? And take a smaller application, it's indicative of your workloads and maybe it has a similar deployment strategy or whatever it may be that actually has active development cycles, and try and move that one first after you've thought about those operational constructs. Again, how am I doing centralized log management? What does my security model look like? How am I going to have users federate in? Stuff like that. Right. Then try and move that application, because in a way, it's almost like a test bed about all of your other prior strategy aspects. Like if you think about everything else that you put into the migration in those key areas, in those operational constructs, that first application you deploy essentially validates all that, right? And if that works, then in theory, you're supposed to be able to operate at scale. And that's how we preach our migration acceleration program.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you're looking forward to doing while you're out here?
No gambling. No, I don't have the best luck when it comes to that. I actually was here with my girlfriend during the reInvent time, and I saw a show over at the MGM. It was one of the Cirque du Soleil.
Was that the Beatles? Not the Beatles.
No, they were like in some sort of like it was like almost like pirate themed in like in Southeast. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah,
it was amazing. They were running around in the crowd and everything. So no, I'm gonna go home on Thursday. So no shows this week. But yeah, last time I was here, I saw that. And anybody who's never seen it, check it out. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and you went to see the Beatles show, right?
Yeah, I've seen several amount of them. Yeah, well, I mean, for me, the best thing about the Beatles show was they have this phenomenal sound system in there, and you're just hearing the Beatles music remix, because I don't know if you ever heard the soundtrack there. It's like a mega mix almost through this huge sound system, really loud and like unique experience for that. But the show was good. It was a little bit more dancing than acrobatics.
And that's the one at the Mirage, right?
Yeah.
I just want to point out Donnie and Marie are at the Flamingo.
Oh, well, boy, that takes me back.
Yeah.
As a young kid. And on that note, awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Yeah, it's been a great conference so far, and again, the partnership with you guys has been fantastic. So more to come.
You.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Cheers.